जय नित्य लील प्रविष्ट ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्रजाचार्य अष्टोत्तरस्तात श्री श्रीमद अभय चरणार्य चरणार्य विंद भक्ति स्वामी प्रभुपाद की जय नित्य लील प्रविष्ट ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्रजाचार्य अष्टोत्तरस्तात श्री श्रीमद भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी प्रभुपाद की जय नित्य लील प्रविष्ट ओम विष्णुपाद श्री गौर किशोरदास बाबा जी महाराज की जय नित्य लील प्रविष्ट ओम विष्णुपाद श्री ल सच्चिदानंद भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर की जय नित्य लील प्रविष्ट ओम विष्णुपाद वैष्णव सर्वभौम श्री ल जगन्नाथ दास बाबा जी महाराज की श्री गौड़ीय वैष्णव गुरु वर्ग की अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गो गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरी गोवर्धन की वृंदावन धाम की नवद्वीप धाम की यमुना माई की गंगा माई की भक्ति देवी की तुलसी देवी की सामवेद भक्त वृंद की निताय गौरा प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. या उद्धरेत करम राजा प्रजाधर्मेश कशिशन प्रजानां श्यामल भुङ्क्ते भगं च स्वं जहाति सः. या उद्धरेत करम राजा प्रजाधर्मेश कक्षयन् प्रजानां श्यामलं भुङ्क्ते भगं च स्वं जहाति सः. य उद्धरेत करम राजा प्रजाधर्मेश शिक्षयन् प्रजानां श्यामलं भुङ्क्ते भगं च स्वं जहाति सः. य उत्तरेत करम राजा प्रजाधर्मेश शिक्षयन् प्रजानां श्यामलं भुङ्क्ते भजं च स्वं जहाति सः. य उत्करेत करम राजा प्रजाधर्मेश शिक्षयन् प्रजानां श्यामलं भुङ्क्ते भजं च स्वं जहाति सः. य उत्करेत करम राजा प्रजाधर्मेश शिक्षयन् प्रजानां श्यामलं भुङ्क्ते भजं च स्वं जहाति सः. Yeah, anyone, king or governor. Uddharit, exact. Karam, taxes. Raja, king. Praja, the citizens, Dharmeshu, in executing their respective duties, Ashikshan, without teaching them how to execute their respective duties, Prajanam, of the citizens, Shamalam, impious, Bhungte, enjoys, Bhagam, fortune, Cha, also, Swam, own, Jahati, gives up, Sa, that king. Translation: any king who does not teach his citizens about their respective duties in terms of varna and āśrama, but who simply exacts toll and taxes from them, is liable to suffer for the impious acts which have been performed by the citizens. In addition to such degradation, the king also loses his own fortune. Okay, translation in purport. A king, governor, or president should not take the opportunity to occupy his post without also discharging his duty. He must teach the people within the state how to observe the divisions of varna and āśrama. If a king neglects to give such instructions, it is simply satisfied with levying taxes, then those who share in the collection, namely all government servants and the head of the state, are liable to share in the impious activities of the general masses. The laws of nature are very subtle. For example, if one eats in a place which is very sinful, he shares the resultant reaction of the sinful activities performed there. It is a Vedic system, therefore, for a householder to call Brahmanas and Vaishnavas to eat at ceremonial performances in the house, because the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas can immunize him from his sinful activities. But it is not the duty of rigid Brahmanas and Vaishnavas to accept invitations everywhere. There is, of course, no objection to taking part in feasts in which prasada is distributed. There are many subtle laws which are practically unknown to the people in general. But the Krishna conscious movement is very scientifically distributing all this Vedic knowledge for the benefit of the people of the world. Translation and purport by His Great Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki. Om Ajnanatimidandasya Jnana Jnanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Tatati Swapadantikam Vanteham Sri Guru Sri Yuda Padakamalam Sri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sakrijadam Sahirgana Sri Gubranvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savajam Prajdana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakavansvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kantha Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanustate Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratashe Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So I'm here instructed by Toshan Prabhu. This is my very first Bhagavatam class. So he has been instructing me to give a class for a very long time now. However, I have avoided this instruction as I felt really unqualified to give a class. However, sitting here today, after reciting all the Mangalacharana mantras and getting your blessings, unfortunately I still feel unqualified. It's like I'm like a firefly, trying to light up the sun. Been only doing bhakti for a very short amount of time, alright? You guys have been serving the mission of Srila Prabhupada for a very long time. some of the devotees here, maybe some that are watching online, they've been serving this mission for longer than perhaps I've been in this body even, right? So, yeah, I'm just here to fulfill this instruction by Toshan Prabhu and just to purify my heart. Whatever I say today in any shape or form, it's not instructional. If it's favorable to your bhakti, please accept it by giving me your blessings. And please understand it's coming from the Vaishnavas that have taught me everything from the Guru. And if I say something unfavorable or non-shastric, or that's not in the mood of our sampradaya, please chastise me, give me feedback, reprimand me, and forgive me. It's my first class. And yeah, I'm going to start with a meditation today to try and serve the Bhagavatam. So I beg for your blessings. I beg for your blessings that the right words would come at the right time, and that I may all serve you this morning. So. Okay, so we are discussing Maharaj Prithu last time. Before starting our discussion, I would like to share a personal realization that I had while preparing for this verse. So as a new devotee, I'm drawn to many books, lots of speakers out there, often speaking in really poetic terms that are really attractive, right? So with Prabhupada's books, I assumed that they were introductory, right? I wanted to read them very quickly, get them done, because, it's good to say that I read through all 12 cantos of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, now I'm reading the Chaitanya Charitamrita, right? It's quite striking to your ego. So I went in with the mood of trying to just get quickly past all the cantos, all the purports, not really understanding what Prabhupada is truly trying to say. And in that desire, right, to read through all these books, there was that ego, right? So that was ambition, just dressed as devotion. And a lot of his senior devotees that guide me, right, one thing they would very, very often emphasize to me was that I should read Prabhupada's books, just Prabhupada's books. Everything was there in Prabhupada's books. And as a new devotee that's starting out, I thought it was coming from a sectarian mindset. Sectarianism is everywhere. And unfortunately, we do see it in all religions and even in ISKCON. So I thought trying to just read Prabhupada's books was coming from that sectarian mindset. Maybe their attachment towards Prabhupada as well. I saw it as something sentimental, right? But preparing for this class has completely shattered that misconception of mine. Everything I was searching for in those other books, the profundity, the depths, esotericism, subtext, the rustic topics, they're all there, Prabhupada's books, right? Hidden in the lines of the purports. Not even hidden in the lines, it's there. It was just waiting for me to slow down and just drop my ego and understand. So yeah, I was recently at Toshan Prabhu's house, right? Most of us probably know him. Great devotee, teaches Bhakti Shastra. He's been through the Vedas and the other Shastras in and out, right? So I was at his home. I saw his collection of books and I was very curious. I wanted to ask him what his recent study was, and I was expecting to hear something like, Gita Govindam or something that's completely out of my reach, right? Something that I can only dream of hoping to read. But what got me really surprised was that his current study was what I thought to be was this small preaching book, right? On the way to Krishna. It's a very small preaching book. If you've seen it, it's like that size, right? And this devotee who has read through all this Shastra, all of the knowledge I have comes from him, and he's reading that very small preaching book with intense care. Not only is he reading, he's studying it, right? He's reading it with a mood of what is Prabhupada trying to say, what's the core emotion here, right? What is Prabhupada's heart expressing, what's the deeper meaning, what's the subtext here? And he was taking me through these paragraphs where he has highlighted, annotated, taken notes of that just very first introductory page. And even in those simple introductory paragraphs, so much depth, clarity, profundity, wisdom, things that I completely missed because I was reading with pride. So I came to realize that Prabhupada's books, they're not mere texts, right? But Doshan Prabhu always says this, it's the heart of Prabhupada speaking to us. Prabhupada has expressed his heart, he's poured his heart out into his books. That is why all the devotees kept telling me, I should read his books, I should read his books, I should read his books. So I did, I went home and I tried to read this book, not skim to the words this time. I tried to sit down, read it, understand the subtext, understand the emotion, understand the heart of it, right? And just the very first page made me take 3 pages of notes. Like, it was that deep. And yeah, what really amazed me was the first 3 pages, right? Prabhupada is already talking about the Rasa Leela, right? One of the most profound and esoteric topics in all of Bhakti. And this really humbled me, right? I wanted to come and ask for forgiveness for the times I approached Prabhupada's books with hastiness. And I understood that it's an expression of his heart. And to understand his heart, we must purify our heart, right? It's said that pride is the end of all spiritual knowledge. Prabhupada mentions this in the start of Bhagavatam, Canto 1. He says, Kali Yuga began when the pride entered into the hearts of the Brahmins. So today my prayer, before we start this discussion, is I pray to Radha Gopinath so that my heart is purified of this pride, so that the mercy and wisdom, it can come into me, so that I can be able to reflect even a fraction of the profundity Srila Prabhupada's heart expresses in this purport. Okay. So, at this point in the pastime, Maharaj Prithu, he's already appeared as an empowered incarnation of the Lord, a Shakti-avesha avatar, right? Sent directly by the Lord to protect Dharma. And in these verses, in this chapter, the previous verses, this one, moving forward, he's just laying the foundation of how he is planning to rule planet. And the first point that really, really strikes me is how great of a Vaishnava Maharaj Prithu is, right? He just got coronated as the king, right? Not of a country, not of a continent, but the entire world. The entire world is at his disposal. And what is his primary concern? The first thing he says is that he wants to be a servant. Why? To fulfill the purpose he was sent for, to please Lord Hari, right? He has access to all the material pleasures we can think about, yet his first thought is to serve. And yeah, in these verses, we can see how he intends to rule. He says that he would reestablish the varṇa āśrama dharma. That is his primary concern, right? Because we can understand that before his time there was a need. Society was going to ruin. There was a primary rise in atheism and irreligiousness, and he had to come in and reestablish that. So in these verses we can see that he intends to rule not with dominance, but with devotional service at the center of his heart. And yeah, his great concern is not having prestige, not control, not the sense of enjoyment, but to serve the Lord through his given role as a king, right? So recently I was in the UAE, Dubai. I was passing through those areas, and you know, if you guys know a bit about the country, it's one of the most luxurious places on earth, right? We all have that image, and seeing that for the first time in all of its opulence and all of its luxury, I was struck, I was taken aback, just in general, just the roads, just the malls, everything. And then I went to the royal quarters where the royal family was staying. And oh my God, the luxury they have at their disposal, it's insane. We can't even imagine the opulence that these kings have, right? Massive palaces. I remember my driver was driving us It took me 10 minutes to get from one end to the palace on a car to the other end. It was that long, right? Like Italian marble floors, walls covered in different patterns, leaves, right? Ceilings with gold, just gold everywhere. Like, why not? There was so much money. um, in their backyards, they have private beaches, right? Man-made islands. They don't have cars. They don't have just one or two cars, right? They have garages the size of a shopping center, right? All the luxury cars you can imagine. Gold plate. I saw some gold plated Rolls Royces, and man, I was thinking, wow, just they have all these cars. I'll be happy if I just get one of these cars. That's what I wanted. And this is just an example of one king, right? One royal family that rules one city, right? Not even a continent. Now imagine the luxuries and disposals that Maharaj Prithu has. Right? All the possible material pleasures at his feet, the ruler of earth, the whole of earth. But you go back and you look at these ultra-rich, ultra-wealthy people, what do you see? We see that they are never satisfied, right? So much money, so much luxury, yet they still want more, right? We see this with billionaires. They still take antidepressants, right? Celebrities, millions and millions of followers, but some of them, they're still some of the most loneliest people in the entire world. These kings, these presidents, these great politicians, they live in fear for their life. Like, we all seen the assassination attempt on Donald Trump, right? They had to walk around with lots of bodyguards, constantly fearing for their life, protecting. And reminded me of a quote by Oscar Wilde. He says that there are only two tragedies in life. One is not getting what one wants, the other is getting it. So this is wonderful, right? This highlights the nature of the so-called happiness we get by material pleasures. This is a core theme in the Gita. Krishna speaks about this. A famous verse is in 5.22, he says, Yehi samparsa jabhoga dukkha yonaya evate adhayantavada kaunteya nateshu ramate buddha. An intelligent person does not take part in the source of misery, which are due to contact with material senses, O son of Kunti. Such pleasures have a beginning and an end, so a wise man does not delight in them. Material pleasures, they're temporary. They have a beginning and an end. They're not enduring, right? Why can't they give us happiness? It's because they're not enduring, but we are enduring. We're eternal spiritual beings. No amount of sense gratification can fill the hunger of our soul. It's like, imagine you're extremely, extremely hungry, right? And your solution to fix that hunger was to smoke a cigarette. That's what material pleasure is like, right? And what we can learn from Maharaj Prithu is that the emperor of the entire planet had access to every unimaginable luxury, and he chose not to chase after these fleeting pleasures. What did he choose to do? He chose to become a Vaishnava. So we can understand that to be a servant of Krishna is greater than being the master of the world even. The bliss that comes from serving Krishna far surpasses even endless opulences. It's mentioned in the Gajentra Stuti prayers, Ekantino yasya nakanchanartam vanchanti evai bhagavad prapanna adyadbhudam tat charidam sumangalam gayanta ananda samudramagna. Unalloyed devotees who have no desire other than to serve the Lord, worship Him in full surrender, and always hear and chant about His activities, which are most wonderful and auspicious. Thus they always merge in an ocean of transcendental bliss. Gayanta Ananda Samudra Magna, ocean of transcendental bliss. That's what's being offered here. Right. Forget Maharaj Prithu. Krishna himself, the owner of all the material and spiritual worlds, right? We hear that he's served by millions and millions and billions of Lakshmis. And what does he want? He also wants to experience the position of being a devotee, right? We hear him say, he declares himself in the Bhagavad Gita, Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pravadate, right? All the spiritual worlds, not the material worlds. Material worlds we can consider, okay, material pleasures here today, gone tomorrow. But what about spiritual pleasures? They're enduring, right? And yet, what do we see? The same Supreme Lord descends in Gaura Leela, not as a king, right? Not as a warrior, not as God even, but as a humble devotee to taste the mood of a Vaishnava, right? Sachi Garbha Sindhaho Harindu. He appeared from the womb of Mother Sachi in the mood of a Vaishnava. So I think the takeaway from this is we can see how exalted the position of a devotee is. But forget Maharaj Prithu, even Krishna desires to become a devotee. And what to speak of people like me, right? Who would still chase after these material pleasures, right? Even after hearing these great kings like Maharaj Prithu and these sages renounce everything, I still think I would like one of those luxury cars that those kings have. I wouldn't mind that. That is the unfortunate position of my ignorance. So that's the question, right? When Maharaj Prithu and the Supreme Lord himself, they aspire to be serving in a humble position of a devotee, what greater proof do we need of the glory of bhakti, this path, right? If this doesn't increase our shraddha, what can, right? So, yeah, unfortunately in this fallen condition, I don't recognize the priceless gift we have been given. So Prabhupada quotes the Chaitanya Charitamrita to emphasize this point. There's a conversation between Sri Sanatana Goswami and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And in that conversation, it's very famous when Sanatana Goswami asks, "Who am I?" The answer, Lord replies, "You're a pure living entity. You're neither the gross body, nor the subtle body composed of mind and intelligence. Actually, you're the spirit soul, eternally part and parcel of the Supreme Soul, Krishna. Therefore, you are his eternal servant. Jibher Swarup Hoy Krishner Nityodash." Right? Lord gives us a very simple, straightforward answer. Yet what do? We still try to imitate the position of an enjoyer, the controller and the master. And what is the result of that? Right? The result is we're like a fish that's trying to be happy on land. You can take that fish, you can place it in a golden platter, you can build a nice palace for it, you can give it all the great food, but if it's out of water, how can that fish ever be happy? Right? It will always remain unsatisfied. And that is our nature when we try to be enjoyers. Right? And this is such a great tragedy because we have received the most rare and most precious treasure ever. Premadana, the treasure of divine love. I would like to quote Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj. He describes this Krishna Prema as the most confidential of the confidential treasures, right? So confidential that Krishna had to go and steal it from the innermost chambers of Srimati Radharani's heart. It was hidden deep inside a box, inside a box, inside another box, inside another box, all locked, right? And yet, the most magnanimous incarnation of the Lord, Mahavadanyaya, Gaurahari, what did he do? He came and he broke open all these locks and he's distributing this Premadana for free, right, for anyone, Uttama Dhamma, regardless of qualifications. And what are we doing? We're turning away from this, we're ignoring this gift, right? We're chasing broken glass, thinking they're diamonds. That is the depth of our ignorance. Therefore, all we can do is with deep humility. We must pray for the mercy of Guru, because only by that mercy can our eyes be opened, right? We say this every day. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnana Ajnana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruvay Namaha. Right? We have to pray to Gurudev to open our eyes. Our eyes are blinded by ignorance, and only Guru can open it by the light from the torch of knowledge, right? So we must always pray for that mercy of Guru. There's no other way out. Okay, so speaking a bit more on Maharaj Prithu. We already spoke about how he's an empowered incarnation sent by the Supreme Lord, right, to re-establish Dharma. So his whole purpose, the whole reason he was sent, was to re-establish this society, this varṇāśrama. And this was the direct order of the Lord. So I wanted to mention something Prabhupada always mentions in his purports. He says, Samsridhir Haritoshanam. The highest perfection is pleasing Lord Hari. Now, let's try and understand why Lord Hari wanted this varṇa āśrama system, as we just studied, right? This varṇa āśrama system to be established. So, we can understand from the Bhagavad Gita that the varṇa āśrama system should exist in the society where there are baddha jivas, conditioned souls. Because humans, we're inherently animalistic in our tendencies, right? And the Lord has understood that we need a systematic way of living. The Bhagavad Gita, Krishna states, Chaturvarnyam maya srishtam guna karma vibharkashaha. According to the three modes of nature and the workers associated with them, the four divisions of human society, they are created by me. Right? So we can understand here that it's the direct want of the Supreme God, the will of Supreme God, that a varṇāśrama system needs to exist, right? And for the varṇāśrama dharma, according to Shastras, they exist in two forms. The first is Devi varṇāśrama, the divine varṇāśrama. This is the pure system established, and the purpose of this varṇāśrama system is to give pleasure for Lord Hari. It's stated, Atapumbir dvija shreshta varṇāśrama pashchajaha shavonshintascha dharmasya samsridir haritoshanam. O best among the twice born, it is therefore concluded that the highest perfection one can achieve by discharging the duties prescribed for one's own occupational accord to caste divisions and orders of life is to please the personality of Godhead, right? So this is a pure varṇāśrama that should be established, and what Maharaj Prithu came to establish. This is the will of the Supreme Lord. But there is also a second type of varṇāśrama system, the Asuri varṇāśrama system, the demoniac, right? And this is the corrupted imitation of the varṇāśrama system, as Prabhupada calls it. So we understand from the Shastras that with the advent of Kali Yuga, this Devi varṇāśrama system, this system meant for the pleasure of Supreme Lord, it has been destroyed, right? And this is not just some theory, we can see it in practice. Just look around us, right? Today, if you find any structures of varṇāśrama or any religious structures for that matter, right, where it's found, it's often just a shell, right? Just a facade for what? For money, for power, for greed, for fame. Unfortunately, we can see some hints of this in our society as well. What to mention of other societies and other religious organizations, right? You can see with politicians, priests, all the CEOs, influencers, celebrities, right? Earlier, people used to pretend to do the right thing, to uphold Dharma. They all had a mood of service, but in the current capitalistic society, it's open self-interest, right? Right? I'm the winner, you're the loser. It's open competition. The concept of serving is now dead. This is what happens when the varṇāśrama system doesn't exist anymore. Our leaders, right, in the varṇāśrama system, they're supposed to be brahmanas, intelligent, pure, detached, and very most importantly, God conscious, right? And yet look at the leaders today, right? Forget the fact that they are sectarian. That can be maybe forgiven, but worst of all, they're greedy and corrupt. The administrator class Kshatriyas. They're meant for protecting the citizens. But instead, what's happening? The citizens, they're being exploited. The Vaishyas, the business class of men, what are they supposed to do? They're supposed to do business in service of the society. But what's happening now? We can see that the society is being dominated by these businessmen, right? World economy, you hear about all these scandals, cheating, manipulation, greed, stock market pump and dump scheme, crypto scams, right? Even the government is on it. Sometimes we hear about it. So this is the unfortunate nature. And what to speak about God consciousness, right? The center of varṇāśrama dharma, samsirdir haritoshanam, right? It has been completely pushed out of the picture. And Prabhupada mentions that without Krishna at the center of all our activities, even these Vedic and pious activities, right? They're āśrama eva hi kevalam, useless labor. So we can understand that even if one were to follow all the religious rituals, give charity, recite prayers, offer sacrifices, maybe even follow the 4 regulative principles, right? Avoid intoxications. But if their motivation is to enjoy, or if it's for liberation, any of the dharma, artha, kama, moksha, then it won't please Lord Hari, right? It's still selfish. It's still not pure bhakti. That's duplicity. Guru Govinda Maharaj says this often, kapatya. So we can now ask, what's the original purpose of the varṇāśrama dharma? Why did Krishna create it? Prabhupada and our acharyas, they explain that the purpose of varṇāśrama dharma, it's simply not just to maintain a society. People often think it's just to maintain the society, just so the society functions smoothly, right? And this has been misinterpreted a lot. You can see with the casteism, especially, that's prevalent in India and still going on. But the actual reasons, as our acharyas explain it, right? It's to free these people, the people in the varṇāśrama, all four castes of the varṇāśrama, from material desires, right? It's so that they work according to their own natures, their own tendencies, but the results of the action that they get, it's offered to Lord Hari, and then therefore they are purified. We understand that when the heart is purified, heart becomes purified, a deep inquiry begins to take place within the heart. Brahma jignasa, right? So what happens when this Brahma jignasa starts to awaken? This person with the heart purifies, desires start to come up. He starts asking questions. It's like, who am I? Why am I suffering? What is the absolute truth? Who is the absolute truth? And what is my relationship with him? Right? And these questions, what do these questions do? When these questions arise in the heart of the person, they naturally seek a tattva acharya, a bona fide guru, who can answer these questions for them. Right? They approach this guru, and through the process of the shravanam, hearing harikatha from the lips of the sadhu, what happens? They gain faith, shraddha, right? A hunger, a craving, not for material success, right? Not for liberation, even before what? For harikatha, right? This is the purpose of the varṇāśrama system. And when the soul begins to thirst for hearing this harikatha, for wanting to serve Krishna, not for their own gain, right? Selfless. Then they transcend varṇāśrama dharma itself. In that stage, there's no need for this varṇāśrama dharma even. So Guru Govinda Maharaj says this point, that at that stage the soul is like a bull. Right? When the soul becomes truly hungry for harikatha, it's like a starving bull. It's been caged, but on the other side, it's fresh grass, right? So what does a bull do? He breaks open all the fences to get to the other side. So these fences, they're the rules, all the fears, all the customs, even all the dharmas even. Nothing can stop him from charging towards that spiritual nourishment. Therefore we can understand that the reason Supreme Lord wanted to establish varnashram dharma is so that there's a systematic way for the population in general to gain taste for Harikatha, which is most important. So, at first glance, it might seem like an amazing thing, right? Wow, what a systematic society. I wish I lived in that society. But it's a great misfortune that this system has been dismantled in today's society. But actually, for us devotees, this loss is special mercy, right? Why? Because the most magnificent, the most merciful, munificent incarnation, Gaura Hari, he has incarnated in this Kali Yuga, Dhanya Kali Yuga, and he has broken all the barriers, made bhakti accessible to all, regardless of their castes, occupation, social standing, qualifications. So for us devotees, we don't have to rise through the strict steps of the Varnashram to attain this Krishna. And that is the extraordinary beauty of bhakti. The beauty is that pleasing of Lord Krishna and his devotees, it's higher. It's higher than even following Vedic injunctions. Senior disciple of Prabhupada, he explains this, why Haritoshanam is the greatest on a philosophical level, right? We can ask, what is reality driven by? Is it karma? Is it logic, right? Vedic rules? Why does reality move? Why do we move? Right? Krishna says in the Gita, Nachamam tani karmani nibandhanti dhananjaya. All this work, all this karma, they cannot bind me. I'm ever detached from them, right? Yet we see Krishna perform, do action. This world exists, the world is moving. What is this action? From the Shastras we can understand that this is not karma, but this is Leela. This is the divine play. The world around us, it's not a mechanical reaction, but a divine celebration, right? Dosha Prabhu says this often. He says that all of this, it's reality celebrating itself. We can't comprehend it. But what powers this Leela, this divine play? It's bhava, love. Bhava is the force that drives the divine drama. So we can imagine Krishna Leela as a divine painting, right? And the canvas of this painting is the setting of Krishna's pastime. And the bhava, the love, it's the paint on this canvas, right? So without that bhava, without that love, this canvas, it's just blank. And if we, in some small way, can offer our love, offer our service into that painting, into that canvas, if our actions even slightly bring pleasure to Krishna, then that is true dharma. That is perfection. Right? So, a senior disciple of Prabhupada says that the standard of reality and dharma is that it gives pleasure to Bhagavan. Samsridir Haritoshanam. Highest perfection is to please Lord Hari. So the extent to which something pleases Bhagavan is the extent to which it's meaningful. Right? And the Shastras, we see them confirm this path of devotion and emphasize this point over and over again, right? That this path of devotion, it transcends the social rules, the caste divisions, and even religious formality when it is done for the pleasure of Lord Hari. So many examples of this. I was recently talking to a friend. He said he read one of the other translations of the Gita. So I curiously asked him, right? I asked him why Arjuna fought, and he said the supreme reason why Arjuna fought was because it was his duty as a Kshatriya. But from our Sampradaya, we know that the reason why Arjuna fought was because he was trying to be an instrument of Krishna. He was just trying to execute the will of Krishna, right? And that's the higher understanding. We are so fortunate to receive that understanding, but unfortunately so many other Gita translations, they don't have that understanding. So we were discussing on Bhishma Dev. I made this point on Bhishma Dev, right? Bhishma Dev, whose side did he fight on? He fought on the side of the Kauravas, the side of Adharma, right? But yet, we all see Bhishma Dev, respect him as one of the greatest devotees of the Lord, right? We have a festival for him even. Why is that? Even though he was on the path of Adharma, why is he still a great devotee? And Prabhupada writes in the purport in Canto 1 that even though Bhishma Dev fought as Krishna's enemy, it was for the pleasure of Krishna. The mood of enmity was also for the pleasure of Krishna. So therefore Bhishma Dev satisfied Krishna by appearing as his enemy. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he poetically explains this, that the arrows shot by Bhishma Dev that pierced into the skin of body of Krishna, they were like love bites of a lover, right? Deeply intimate, not hostile. We can never understand this, but it gave pleasure to Lord Hari. So Bhishma's actions, they were still dharmic, even though he was on the side of Adharma. So again, Samsriddhi Hari Doshanam. The pleasure to Lord Hari is the only dharma, right? We can see this in Gaur Leela as well, right? This famous pastime of Sri Advaitacharya. He was performing his annual Shraddha ceremony where you are meant to honor your ancestors. And the Mahaprasad from that ceremony, it should be given to the guest of the greatest honors. And we know that in the building when the ceremony was taking place, there are all these exalted brahmanas, right? Multiple of these brahmanas. So as the ceremony was going on, all these brahmanas, they were waiting to see who this Mahaprasad will be given to. They were all anxiously waiting. Maybe some parts of their ego were showing out, right? They wanted it to be them. But who does Advaita Acharya give it to? He gives it to Haridas Thakur. Externally, he's a mleccha, right? He shouldn't be even in the same building as where the brahmanas are. He was not even allowed in the building, right? But Srila Advaita Acharya, he still decided to feed Haridas Thakur. Why? Because Haridas Thakur is an exalted Vaishnava. So Advaita Acharya then goes to explain that to feed a great devotee like Haridas is equal to feeding millions of brahmanas. Right? Another example of disregarding Vedic formalities for the pleasure of Lord Hari. Because how is Lord Hari pleased? Lord Hari is pleased when his devotees are pleased. Right? And Prabhupada also mentions in this purport that when we should invite Vaishnavas when we have ceremonial performances. And the subtext, the depth as to why Prabhupada is saying that is because it's pleasing to Lord Hari. Therefore we can understand that's the highest dharma. And the highest example of this ideal, right? They're the gopis. You know, according to their dharma, they can't leave home alone, especially at night time, right? Some of them were cooking for their husbands, some of them were taking care of the kids. But yet, when they heard Krishna's flute, what did they do? They all abandoned their positions and just simply ran to him, right? This is great blasphemy of all the social and Vedic rules at that time, right? How are we to understand this? Well, we can understand this by sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja tvam sarva papepyo mokshesyami masuja. If it's for the pleasure of Lord Krishna, we can sacrifice all dharmas, even Vedic dharmas. So there's this powerful incident of Prabhupada's life I was reading about. Once he was speaking Harikatha and his microphone stand was not working, was wobbling, right? So he couldn't continue speaking the katha. So the audience were waiting to see what was going to happen next. And to everyone's astonishment, one of the second initiated devotees, they were standing nearby. You know, they wear the Brahmin's thread. And Prabhupada grabbed it, took it off, and fixed the microphone up with it, right? So if you were to just look at the Vedic culture, we can understand that the Brahmin's thread, it's considered to be the worst offense to take it off. The Vedas have such gruesome descriptions. They say it's worse than the murder of a Brahmin. I might be wrong on that, but they say something like that, right? But yet, Prabhupada removed that Brahmin's thread, knowing the Vedas condemn it, right? To tie the microphone. Why is that? Because what's important is that Harikatha must go on. The glorification of Krishna is beyond caste, is beyond symbols, it's beyond rituals, it's beyond all of these rules, right? So that's why Prabhupada writes, if the actions are not done for Krishna, then it's Shravanam eva hi kevalam, useless labor. So the next part is, well, okay, we have to please Lord Hari. How do we please Lord Hari? If the current varnashram system is broken, right? The answer is very simple. Hari is most pleased, Krishna is most pleased when his devotees are pleased, when the Vaishnavas are pleased. Mahaprabhu, he quotes a verse from the Adi Purana. Ye me bhakta jana parta na me bhaktascha te jana mat bhakta nam cha yid bhaktes te me bhakta tama matva. So Lord Krishna told Arjuna, those who are my direct devotees are actually not my devotees, but those who are my devotees of my servants are factually my devotees. Krishna's heart is reached through the heart of his devotees, right? So Gaur Govinda Maharaj says this point in his lecture. He says that you have not seen Krishna, right? You don't know Krishna directly, but you can see the dear devotees of Krishna, the Vaishnavas, they're right in front of you, the lotus feet, right in front of you. A Vaishnava is a walking tirtha. If you surrender to that Vaishnava and please him, then Krishna is also pleased. So we can understand that this is the highest ideal, right? The glory of Vaishnava Seva. We hear Sri Ramanuja make this point. He says, do not consider the service to the Vaishnavas as a means. Always consider it the goal itself. To think that one serves the Vaishnavas to obtain some other results is to misunderstand the nature of this service. The reason we do Vaishnava Seva is so that we get the opportunity to do more Vaishnava Seva. Right? Prabhupada says this, if we ever get an opportunity to serve a Vaishnav, we must think that all the chanting that we did, all the bhakti that we did, all the sleepy Mangalaratis that we attended, all the sacrifices we made for Krishna's Seva, they have come into fruition. Oh look, what a wonderful reward. I got to serve a Vaishnava. Right? And there are so many interesting points about the glories of Vaishnava Seva. There are some commentaries on the Bhagavatam where they talk about the Akashavani that appeared to Kamsa, right? We might sometimes question, right? Why in the world would the Devatas, why would they want to inform Kamsa that Devaki's eighth child would be his demise? Wouldn't that just agitate him? Wouldn't that just increase his rage? Why did he do that, right? And some of our acharyas very beautifully point out that after the wedding of Devaki and Vasudev, the mother and father of Krishna, such great devotees, Kamsa, he personally drove the chariots, right? He was doing some seva, some Vaishnava seva, even though it was not intentional, but yet he was doing some sevas. So Kamsa was already so powerful at that point. The Devatas were already scared of him. But they feared that now that Kamsa has done some Vaishnava seva, even though it's unintentional, he will become undefeatable. Therefore, they just had to stop that seva right there, which is why they agitated him through the Akashavani. Even unintentional service, devotional service to the Vaishnavas is this powerful, right? Imagine intentional service with a humble attitude and love. Imagine how powerful that can be, right? So I think I'd like to conclude now, just pointing out, bringing it back to the Maharaj Prithu pastime. All the opulences in the world, but still he only wanted to serve Vishnu, serve Krishna. re-establish the varnashram dharma, because that was the direct will of Supreme God. And even though we understand that the varnashram dharma doesn't exist today, because it's Kali Yuga and it's all corrupted, we're still lucky. This is an incredibly merciful opportunity for us devotees, because it's the Dhanya Kali Yuga, right? Mahaprabhu has made bhakti so accessible to all of us that we do not need to go through these grueling processes of the Vedas, these rituals, these varnashramas. Supreme perfection, it still remains the same, then and now. Samsridir Haritoshanam, to please Lord Hari. And now that the formal system is gone, how do we please him? Very simply, we please him by pleasing his devotees. He's made it so easy for us. His Karuna Shakti, his devotees, the Gurus and the Vaishnavas, they're still right here. Right? It's said that we can't capture Krishna's heart, because who is he? Who is Krishna? He's so far away. But the Vaishnavas, they're right in front of us. The Vaishnavas that are very dear to Krishna. Right? It's said that the path to the Lord is paved by the dust from the feet of these Vaishnavas. We often hear this is one of the most overused sayings in ISKCON. Get the dust of the lotus feet of the Vaishnavas. We keep saying this over and over and over again. But we can understand it's because of these Vaishnavas we have an opportunity to serve Krishna. Therefore, it's not enough. No glory is enough. Right? Therefore, right, the conclusion is that we must pray and beg to associate with the Vaishnava, to hear from them, to honor them, right? Maybe get the opportunity to feed them some food. This is not part of the path, but this is the path itself. This is the goal. And by their mercy and their mercy only, we can achieve the supreme desired results. Hari Toshanam. Okay. Hare Krishna. Please let me know if you have any questions, comments, feedback. Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Oh, thank you, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah. Well, Prabhu, you're a much more senior devotee to me. You've taught me a lot. I know about bhakti. But one thing that maybe I can say is that I also find myself in that situation a lot, right? A lot of great Vaishnavas come visit the temple. I was there with you in India, where we visited a lot of Vaishnavas in Vrindavan Dham and Mayapur Dham, and unfortunately I was in that situation where I cannot appreciate them enough. And why is this? It's because we are born in the darkest of ignorance. We are that ignorant, we are that conditioned, right? Even the most nectarian things, the material disease, it makes it seem salty to us, right? Srila Prabhupada famously gives the analogy of us having the disease of jaundice. He compares the material disease to that of jaundice. Even if we eat something sweet, it tastes so bitter to us. And therefore the only way to get that sweetness back is to keep doing this process, trust this process, right? Krishna says, Asradhana Purusha Dharmasyasya Parantapa Aprapya Mam Nivartante Mrityu Samsara Vartmani. Right? The people that have no faith, no shraddha in this dharma. What is this dharma? This dharma is what we just discussed right now. Samsriddhi Haritoshanam. Right? They don't reach Krishna, they come back to Mrityu Samsara Vartmani, this place of birth and death. Therefore our goal, to get out of this darkness, we need to have faith. And how do we get faith? By listening to the sadhus, right? by our gurus. Actually, we say this every day. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnana Jnana Shlakaya Chakshurul Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha. May that Guru give us this blessing and burn this ignorance away with the torchlight of knowledge. So we must pray for that. I hope I've been able to provide an answer for that question, Pooh. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Ananta Kodi Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai.